Hello BookTube, my name is Adrian and today I am going to be telling you about my TBRs for the readathon as well as the buzzword readathon. So like I said in the intro clip, I am going to be telling you about basically my March TBR. During the month of March, I am participating in 2 readathons. I am going to be participating in the readathon, which was created by Murphy, who I will link the channel for down below. And this readathon takes place from the 10th to the 16th of March and entirely focuses on rereading books that you've read in the past. So there are 7 challenges that go along that, but we will talk about them more when we actually show you the books that I'm planning to read for that readathon. And then the other readathon I am participating in the month of March is the Buzzwordathon, which is created by Books on Lala, and she has a myriad of hosts that are helping her out. The Buzzword Readathon takes place from the 8th to the 18th to the 24th. And for the Buzzword Readathon, the challenge is a little bit more like vague and open to you. Basically, there is a buzzword, or in this case, there are multiple buzzwords that you can choose to read as many books as possible, or as many books as you want that feature that word. We will talk about that more in depth when we get to that readathon, but let's go ahead and backtrack back to the readathon because I'm going to tell you what the challenges are and what books I'm hoping to read for them. So, like I said, the readathon takes place from the 10th to the 16th, and you are supposed to be rereading books that you have read in the past. So there are 7 challenges that go along with rereading books, and so we're going to go ahead and talk about each challenge and what book I picked because I have picked a book for every single challenge. So the first challenge for the readathon is to pick a book that you are giving a second chance to. For this one, I have picked History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This is a book that I technically have not finished before. I have read probably a third to half of this book, probably roughly, and I couldn't get into it for very personal reasons. I actually did an entire video on this, which is which I guess I'll link for you. It was really not great because it was very early on in my booktube career and I really didn't know what I was doing, but it's actually one of my most viewed videos, so that's a thing, I guess. But I'm hesitant to link it for you, but it would be easy to find, so fine. I'll link it for you guys down below if you're interested to hear me babble forever about why I didn't finish this book and why I DNF'd it. But I'm going to give it a second shot now, I think like 2 years later. I'm going to give it a second shot and see how it goes. So that is a book that I'm giving a second chance to. The next challenge is to read a recent favorite. And for this challenge, I have picked As She Fades by Abby Glines. This was a book that I was blessed enough to receive a ARC for, and I was so very excited to get an ARC of it. I read this book, and at about the halfway point, this book is divided into 2 halves, part 1 and part 2. And when I got to part 2, in reading the ARC, I chucked my phone, because it was an e-ARC, I was reading on my phone. I chucked my phone like across the room, like across my bed, so it like landed on my bed. So I didn't break my phone, but I chucked it because I was like floored by like the twist that came in this book. I was not seeing it coming, did not see it coming at all, and I absolutely love this book. So I'm excited to read this again, and one thing that I am definitely going to be doing throughout the readathon is any books that I have physical copies of, I'm going to annotate them because I am very excited to annotate. Like, one of the things that I have decided to do is when I reread a book that I own a physical copy of, if I've liked it enough to reread it, I feel like I need to annotate it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to annotate any of the books that I have physical copies of. So when I reread this book, I will annotate it as well. So this was the book that I picked for a recent favorite. The next challenge is to pick an old favorite. This one was a little bit of a stretch because this book hasn't been published that long ago. Okay, so this book was published in 2017, so it really wasn't published that long ago, but it's one that I've been wanting to reread recently, and so I figure it is older than my newest favorite pick that I have. So I'm going to go with this one, and the book that I have picked for an old favorite is to read Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. Again, I've been wanting to reread and annotate this book for quite a while, so I decided that this was going to be the book I picked up for an old favorite, which is kind of a stretch because, like I said, this book only came out in 2017, but that's almost 2 years ago, so it counts, right? I'm going to say it counts. I'm gonna read this one for this challenge. The next challenge is to read a book that was a game changer for you. I decided that for this challenge, I'm going to read A Night to Surrender by Tessa Dare. This was the very first ever historical romance that I ever read, and it absolutely was a game changer for my reading because I am obsessed with historical romances now. I have read basically everything Tessa Dare has written at this point. Almost everything. There's a couple books that I haven't been able to get my hands on, but I've read just about everything she's published at this point. And by proxy, by reading Tessa Dare, I also was recommended Julia Quinn, and I have read a lot of her books as well. Not all of them, because she's published quite a few books, but I've read a great number of books by Julia Quinn as well. So A Night to Surrender is definitely a book that was a game changer for my reading, because I would not be reading historical romance if I hadn't read this book and enjoyed it as much as I did. So definitely going to be rereading this one. The next challenge is to read an underrated or unpopular book. For this one, I'm going to be rereading Stay Sweet by Siobhan Vivian. This is a book that I definitely feel like is underrated because when it first came out, there was a lot of hype about it going around BookTube, because I know a lot of bigger booktubers got like a promotional box for this book. But honestly, since that time when I saw everybody getting the promotion for it, I haven't seen very many people actually reading and talking about this particular book, and I absolutely love this book. I'm pretty sure I gave it either 4.5 or a full 5 stars, so I'm very excited to read this book again and to be able to annotate it. So this is a book that I am going to be reading for that challenge. So the next challenge for the rereadathon is to reread a childhood favorite, and for this one I picked the Magic Treehouse books. I think I'm going to attempt to reread the first 4 of these because at the very least the early Magic Treehouse books, every 4 books was a series of like continual stories. So it's kind of like an episode of a TV show where like each episode was like, each book was a different story, but they all had an overarching theme. So I think I'm going to try and reread the first 4 of these, which I don't remember all of the titles. But I think I'm going to try and reread 4 of the Magic Treehouse books because they are short, so I feel like I can get through them pretty quickly. But these were some of the books that I credit with being some of the first books that actually got me invested in reading, because I picked up like book 17 or something, which was, I think it was Tonight on the Titanic. Was one of the first books I ever read it was actually the first book of the Magic Treehouse series I ever read, and I really enjoyed it. So I decided to like start the series over, and I read all of them up to like book 36 or something crazy like that. So I read a lot of these books as a kid, and they really are one of the first books that ever got me into reading. So this is definitely a childhood favorite that I'm going to be reading for this readathon. And the last challenge is to reread a popular book. And for this one, I have chosen The Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This is a book that I'm also going to be giving a second chance to, if not a third chance to. Daughter of Smoke and Bone is a book that is very popular on BookTube. Laini Taylor is a very popular author just in general, especially, and on BookTube. And I have read Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares, which I did enjoy both of, but I did not enjoy Daughter of Smoke and Bone the first time I read it. And so I feel like I need to try again, and because there's a challenge for a popular book for this readathon, what better time to try and read it? So I'm going to try and reread Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I'm going to see if maybe reading this book the same way I read Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares would help me get more invested in the story, which the way I read those was I listened to an audiobook while reading, like while following along in a physical copy. That was the only way I could get through Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares, not because they were bad books. I actually really enjoyed both of them, but because they are very dense writing. The writing is very, the only word I can think of is very floral. It's very, very dense. And so I was struggling with the audiobooks of those, and just reading them physically, combining the two, I handled very well. So I may do that with Daughter of Smoke and Bone. And so that is the challenge, the book I picked for the popular book challenge. So that is all the challenges for the rereadathon. So let's go ahead and move on to the buzzwordathon. Like I said, this is created by Books and Lala. The gist of this readathon is that you pick books that have a certain buzzword in them. This time around, there's more than one buzzword. The buzzwords for this round is the descriptors: who, what, when, where, why, and how. So really you have a myriad of options of ways you can interpret this. You can either pick one buzzword and try and read as many books as possible with that word. You can pick a few of them and read as many as possible from them, or you can do what I'm doing, which is I'm going to try and read one book for every buzzword. So I'm going to attempt to read 6 books for this readathon, and each one contains one of the words. So I do not have most of these books in my possession right now because I'm getting them from the library, because I was looking at my bookshelves and I actually only have 2 books that have any of these words in them, and both of them are on this TBR. So I'm actually having to fill out this TBR with a lot of other books. So we're going to talk about them, but I'm not going to have most of them to show you because they are still on their way to me from my library. So we're just going to go ahead and show you pictures of most of these books. I actually don't know who most of these books are by, so that's probably not good. I should probably look into that. I'm going to pull that list up real quick. Okay, so the first buzzword that I am going to be reading from is the buzzword who. And for this one, I have picked The Girl Who Came Home by Hazel Gaynor. This is a book that I don't really know anything about, but I believe that it is about a woman who was on the Titanic. And so I'm very interested in this. I really am fascinated by the Titanic and other ship sinkings, but you know, the Titanic's the big one that like got me interested in that stuff. So I'm going to be reading this one. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about what it's about because I basically just typed the buzzword into like my library's like website to see what books came up, and that was one that came up and it sounded really interesting. So that's the book I'm going to be trying to pick up for who. The next buzzword is the book word what, and for this one I am going to be rereading the book This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith. It has been a very long time since I've read this book, and I know that this book is about, obviously because I've read it, I know that this book is about a movie star who accidentally sends an email to some girl and she has no interest in him, and then he ends up filming a movie in her town and like they strike up a relationship. I remember really liking this book, so I'm interested to see what I think of it now, many years later, since I've read this book. So this is the book I have picked for the word what. Also, when hearing the prompts who, what, when, where, why, how, does anybody else sing the song from Spy Kids in their heads? Because I know I do. The next prompt is when, and for this one I have chosen When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. I really can't pronounce last names, I'm so sorry. For this book is a non-fiction story about a man who was studying to become a neurosurgeon, and I believe in his last year of school he finds out that he has been diagnosed with lung cancer, and it's kind of his true story, and so I'm really interested in this one. So this is a book that I am picking up for the prompt when. The next buzzword is where, and for this one I am going to be reading Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I feel like this is one that I can read through pretty quickly, and I really enjoyed the Fantastic Beasts movie, so I'm definitely kind of interested in reading this book, and maybe I'll watch the movie again once I finish this one. So that's what I'm planning to read for the prompt where. The next prompt I have is for why, and I have 2 picks for this one actually, and I haven't decided which one I'm going to use, so I'm just going to tell you about both of them. The first book I have is Why We Broke Up by Daniel Sandler, I believe. This is a book that I have seen around BookTube quite a bit, and I have been interested in reading it. I just never got around to it. So this is a book that I'm going to be potentially reading. The other book that I have picked for this is Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling. This is a book that, it's a nonfiction book, and I really like Mindy Kaling. She's a very interesting and funny person. So this is a book that I could potentially pick up from my library as well. So we will kind of see which one I'm in the mood for when it actually comes time for the readathon. And the last reading prompt is how, and for this one I also have 2 books to read. Again, it will just kind of come down to like what I'm interested in reading at the time. The first book that I have picked for this is How to Love by Katie Cotugno. I have not had great luck with Katie Cotugno recently. I have read several of her books and I just didn't enjoy any of them. I'm a little hesitant about this one, but I know that it was one of Kayla's like favorite books she read like last year or the year before. So I'm definitely interested in this one in terms of like giving Katie Cotugno another shot, but also I'm a little hesitant about it. So we'll see how I feel about this one when it actually comes time to the readathon. The other book that I have for this challenge is How to Train Your Dragon by Hiccup-Horrendous Haddock III, translated from Old Norse by Cressida Cowell. This is a book that I have read once before and I thought was really cute and entertaining, and I actually have several books in this series for when my son gets older because I think this might be something he would be really interested in. And so I have this book for him, but it has the word how in the title, so I'm probably gonna read this one for this challenge, assuming I don't pick up How to Love. So this is a book that I picked for that challenge. Yeah, this is the one I have for that. we will see which book I actually pick up. But I thought this one would be a good, quick, short one to read because it's a children's book and the text is pretty decently sized. So this is the book I'm gonna read for that, maybe. So that is the last challenge for me for the Buzzword Readathon. I hope you guys liked this video. I would love to know if you're planning to participate in either of these readathons. What books are you reading for them? Have you read any of these books that I'm going to be reading? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.